Hi Vanessa, hi Camila, welcome. I'm doing well, Vanessa. How about you? Thank you for asking. Also, Happy New Year to everyone. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Lucia. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Lola. Thank you for subscribing. I truly appreciate it. Welcome everyone. Happy New Year. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Thank you, Lola. I truly appreciate it. Yeah, on the live streams I do shout outs, and then on the YouTube shorts I do greeting cards. Yeah. Hello everyone. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Anita. Shout out to Sophia. Oh, I already did Sophia, my bad. Shout out to Diana. Shout out to Tank. Shout out to Kensley. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Serafina. Shout out to Anna. Oops. There we go. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Heidi. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Raven. Shout out to Abigail. Shout out to Erin. Shout out to Jakawi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Iana. Is it Iana or Iana? Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Jaina. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Welcome everyone. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Emmy. Shout out to Olivia. Shout out to Jeanette. Also, I thank you in advance for your patience. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Sonia. Shout out to Nicole. Shout out to Aurelie. Shout out to Rashika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Drew. Shout out to Emmeline. Shout out to Shri Yansh. Shout out to Jesus. Shout out to Patricia. Shout out to Alexis. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Bento. Shout out to Jesus, I Got You. Shout out to Legend. Shout out to Ulysses. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Serenity. Shout out to Izzy. Shout out to Bethany. Shout out to Yagmur. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Thank you. Is it Rose? Thank you, Rose, for subscribing. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Maddie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to, is it Danelsi? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Danesli? Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Kaden. Shout out to Javen. Or Javin, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Valerie. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Hadia. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nyla. Shout out to, is it Michelle? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Gorit. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kenna. Shout out to Jimena. Shout out to Zoila. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Zara. Shout out to Annie. Shout out to Jocelyn. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Abraham. Shout out to Tiara. Shout out to Saya. Give me 30 seconds. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Abraham. Shout out to Samantha. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Ember. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Chaya, or Shaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to 11. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Brian. Shout out to Jarlin. Shout out to Kinley. Shout out to Nate. Shout out to Clarissa. Or Clarissa. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Minnie. Shout out to Ben. Shout out to Jameson. Shout out to Samreen. Shout out to Mila. Shout out to Lilia. Shout out to Julian. Shout out to Poppy. Excuse me. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Happy New Year. Wishing everyone all the best. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Theodora. Shout out to Jaden. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Reese. Shout out to Brigham. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Star. Shout out to Vanessa. Shout out to Jaylene. Shout out to Jarvis. Shout out to Rohan. Shout out to Coffee. Shout out to Remington. Shout out to Shinobu. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Nikki. Shout out to Hope. Shout out to Yesha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Giselle. Shout out to Lee Mino. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ibrahim. Shout out to Letitia or Leticia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Junior. Shout out to Kennetha. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Skylar. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Josefa. Shout out to Charlie. Shout out to Luna. Shout out to, you're welcome, Skylar. Shout out to Ava. Shout out to Aiden. Welcome back. Shout out to Jolene. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Dagny. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Chase. Shout out to M. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Jersey. Shout out to Denisa. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Millie. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Jeremiah. Shout out to Chelsea. Shout out to Robin. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Adelia. Shout out to Valentina. Whoops. Let me write your name again because I messed up. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Connor. Shout out to Joyce. Shout out to Jill. Shout out to Elena. Shout out to Ryder. Shout out to Paige. Shout out to Phoenix. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Andrew. Shout out to Celeste. Shout out to Michaela. Happy New Year, Mia. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Marthina. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Frankie. Shout out to Kevin. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Elvin. Shout out to McKenna. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Erica. Happy New Year, Erica. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Janae. Shout out to Nick. Shout out to Isla. Shout out to Shanley. I'm so sorry, I write slow. Please forgive me. I try to write fast. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Amira. Shout out to Fabroon. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Samson. Shout out to Slater. Shout out to Jada. Shout out to Mina. Shout out to Ursula. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Alicia. Shout out to Hope. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Tyler. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Cadence. Happy New Year, Cadence. Shout out to Ray. I'm gonna write your name again, Cadence, because it's kind of squished. Shout out to Cadence. Much better. Shout out to Rehab. Shout out to Jalen. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to King. Shout out to Kim. Shout out to Raiku. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Alina. Shout out to Wulon. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ainsley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Marisol. Thank you for liking my videos. I truly appreciate your support. Shout out to Marisol. Shout out to Aliko. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Heidi. Shout out to Elvira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Rayanna. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Oh no, I messed up. Give me 1 second. Rayanaya. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Venice. Shout out to Jessa. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Sadie. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Blair. Shout out to Abby. Shout out to Aiden. Shout out to Caitlin. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Taylor. Shout out to Karen. Did I spell it correctly? Shout out to Staley. Shout out to Hadley. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Maddie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Beckham. Shout out to Kimura. Shout out to Felix. Shout out to Stephen. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Jeremiah. Thank you everyone for your patience. I know I don't write super duper fast. I wish I did. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Hussein. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kula. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Matthew. Shout out to Kylie. Shout out to Hazel. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Forrest. Shout out to Renee. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Akshara. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lola Rose. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Aliana Bell. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Blakely. Whoopsie, I messed up. I forgot the E. Shout out to Blakely. Shout out to Samo. Shout out to Melania. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Priscilla. Shout out to Tiana. Shout out to Chloe. Shout out to Jennifer. Shout out to Janaseret. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Lanique. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to TJ. Shout out to Mimi. Shout out to Zyla. Shout out to Callie. Shout out to Isabella. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Sedona. Or Sedona. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Harper. Wishing you all the best. Shout out to Georgia. Shout out to Lee Yun. Shout out to Muhammad. Shout out to Kelsey. Shout out to Sierra. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Sienna. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ishal. Shout out to Bryn. Shout out to Lily. Thank you. Thank you, Lily, for your support. Shout out to Chloe Rain. Shout out to Juliana. Shout out to Kendall. Shout out to Gracelyn. Shout out to Bonnie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Molly. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to I missed it. Mamika. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Angela. Shout out to Rafaela. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Cameron. Shout out to Rowan. Shout out to Lila. Oh, I already put Lila. Shout out to Katie. Shout out to Brittany. Chloe, did I spell your name right? Let me know if I didn't. Shout out to Ashlyn. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Victoria. Shout out to Anna. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Brinley or Brinley. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Chloe Rain. Shout out to Love. Shout out to Aya. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Graceland. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Griffin. Shout out to Sia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Anna. Shout out to Nora. Shout out to Addison. Shout out to Morel. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. Thank you so much for being here. Write your name in the chat if you want me to shout you out. Shout out to Aubrey. Shout out to Dustin. Shout out to Maya. Shout out to Kelly. Shout out to Babusi. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Adina. Shout out to Rose. Shout out to Carly. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Lauren. Shout out to Jada. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Lola. Shout out to Hopper. Shout out to Sarah. Shout out to Mana. Shout out to Jason. Shout out to Lasana. Let me know if I mispronounced your or I misspelled your name. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Robin. Shout out to Natalie. Shout out to Eshi. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Lawson. Shout out to Cora. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Bobby. Shout out to JC. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Lauren Welsh. Shout out to Amy. Shout out to Kaya. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Summer. Shout out to Palmer. Shout out to Anu. Shout out to Kaja. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Nedmisha. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Camaro. Shout out to Amelia. Shout out to Joy. Shout out to Vecna. Shout out to Jahira. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Kennedy. Shout out to Macy. Shout out to Hattie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Nancy. Shout out to Isabel. Shout out to Kaylin. Shout out to Nancy, I got you. Shout out to Henry. Shout out to Catherine, Happy New Year. Thank you. Shout out to Aaliyah. Shout out to Brianna. Shout out to Journey. Shout out to Alea. Shout out to Catherine. Shout out to Larissa. Shout out to Tiana. Shout out to Ramisa, or Ramessa, sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Shruti. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Natalia. Shout out to Dairo. Shout out to Mario. Shout out to Addie. Shout out to Krish. Shout out to Claire. Shout out to Hunter. Shout out to Cherry. Shout out to Ariel, sorry. Shout out to Crow. Shout out to Soon Min. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Raya. Shout out to Piper. Shout out to Charlotte. Shout out to Lily. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Viviana. Shout out to Viviana. I forgot the other N. There we go. Shout out to Noah. Shout out to Isha. Shout out to Alyssa. Shout out to Joanna. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Mia. Shout out to Zoe. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Ellie. Shout out to Ron. Shout out to Janaya. Shout out to Brooke. Shout out to Belen. Shout out to Satria. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Harley. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Sophia. Shout out to Caitlin. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to Ella. Shout out to Lyra. Shout out to Nuwaira. Thank you for your patience. I'm so sorry, I write slow. Shout out to Mia. Leave a like if you're enjoying the live stream. I'm so sorry if I haven't gotten to you. Nuwaira, I'm so sorry. I know, I write slow. Please forgive me. Shout out to these people. On to the next page. So I appreciate everyone's patience, everyone's time. I know it can be a little like when is it my turn? I'm so sorry. I'm really sorry. But I appreciate your patience. Thank you so much for being here. Shout out to Genesis. Shout out to Ivy. Shout out to Eden. Shout out to Brandy. Shout out to Spooky. Shout out to the Duck Dev. Sorry if I mess it up. Shout out to Grace. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to Nadine. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Hazel. Shout out to, is it Janan? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Bash. Shout out to Aislinn. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Valentina. Shout out to Jillian. Shout out to Maddie. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Alexia. Shout out to Jenna. Shout out to Kaylee. Shout out to Riley. Shout out to Zia. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Aisling. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to, is it Lesha? Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Dylan. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Daniela. Shout out to Nuwaira. Happy birthday. Shout out to Sally. Shout out to Jade. Shout out to Zarin. Shout out to Victoria. Thank you for your support. Shout out to Blake. Shout out to Colin. Shout out to Nelly. Shout out to Hadley. Shout out to Oakley. Give me 30 seconds. I'll be right back. I'm so sorry. I had like an emergency thing. I'm so sorry. Shout out to Kenji. Thank you for your patience, everyone. Shout out to Miranda. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Ciara. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to Fatima. Shout out to Ruby. Shout out to Bonnie. Shout out to Eliana. Shout out to Jaylee. This marker is kind of running out. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Alistair. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Ireland. Shout out to Devin. Shout out to Chase. Shout out to Madison. Shout out to Rumi. Shout out to Bella. Shout out to Eli. Thank you for your patience. Shout out to Kenzie. Shout out to Haley. Shout out to Zane. Shout out to Gabby. Shout out to Gervier. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Hartley. Shout out to Brigham. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Layla. Shout out to Lydia. Shout out to, is it Madeline? Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Iralis. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Luke. Shout out to Ariana. Shout out to Dylan. Shout out to Emily. Shout out to Paisley. Shout out to Sally. Shout out to Emma. Shout out to April. Shout out to Hope. Shout out to Deets. Shout out to Austin. Shout out to Camila. Shout out to Sassy. Shout out to Jackson. Shout out to Adriana. Thank you for subscribing. Shout out to, is it Andre? Thank you for subscribing. Sorry if I mispronounced your name. Shout out to Savannah. Shout out to Hayden. Shout out to Sanchez. Shout out to Harper. Shout out to Penny. Shout out to Lila. Shout out to Tiffany. Shout out to Safia. Shout out to Elle. Shout out to Mehmet. Sorry if I mispronounce your name. Shout out to Sylvia. Shout out to Coral. Shout out to Adeline. Shout out to Mackenzie. Shout out to Ashley. Shout out to Everly. Shout out to Itzel. Shout out to Steven. Bye, Steven. Thank you for dropping by. Shout out to Steven. Shout out to Kendra. Shout out to Maddie. Shout out to these people. Thank you so much for being here. Please like and subscribe if you enjoy my shout outs. I also post other content. I hope you can check it out and like some of it as well. I would truly appreciate it. Thank you again for being here. I live stream every day. So thank you so much for being here. Please subscribe. I will see you next time. Take care. Bye.